this time, I'm going to introduce our panelists. We have three panelists. We have Mary Beth Curtis. She is with Florida Healthcare Plan. She is a registered dietitian. She earned her BS in dietetics, and she's been a registered dietitian for over 37 years. And she also has her certified diabetes education for 15 years. And she's worked in hospitals, nursing homes, outpatient diabetes education, and various other avenues. Then we have Joe Rowlett. He is also with Florida Healthcare Plans. He is one of our group wellness and communications coordinators. He's out in the Brevard area. Let's see, Joe has his BS or bachelor's in exercise science from Temple University, and he also has a master's in public administration. He has 10 years experience in hospital health and wellness. He had worked with the YMCA for 16 years. And then we have John Ward. He is with Gold's Gym. He has his doctorate degree. He is a 4-time CEO, a business strategy consultant, an educator, an author, a speaker, and a healthcare expert. He's worked coaching people. He has extensive experience in human behavior, business management, psychological counseling, nutritional education, weight loss management, and sports performance training. Okay, so he has his PhD in psychology and a master's in cellular physiology and exercise science. Okay, so thank you very much, Mary Beth, Joe, and John, for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Carla, for the intro. So with the term wellness, wellness can encompass quite a bit, but for this presentation, we want you to think wellness in the terms of getting your wellness appointment or your annual appointment. Sometimes it's called your physical, and getting it with your primary care physician, often referred to as your PCP. So with this slide, as we look at our annual wellness routine checkup, some items here, this is not all, but these are the main guidelines that your physician will go over with you. And each item will have guidelines that your physician will know to work with. So for example, blood pressure. Blood pressure is a big one. And based on your age and your risk, determines the frequency of the blood pressure. So if you're younger and you're not at risk, your blood pressure, and you have a history of it being in line, it may not be as required or put as much attention. However, if you are a little bit older, I believe over age 40, then you are gonna have some risk factors. There may be an opportunity to have your blood pressure taken a little bit more often, but definitely blood pressure is something that is a focus point of your annual wellness routine. And then you look at blood work. Blood work is going to include your lipid profile, but that's going to be everything from your cholesterol, triglycerides, HDLs, LDLs. This may be done in advance. A lot of times your primary care will send you out to get your blood work and then bring with you, or they'll have it delivered by the time you come in for your appointment. And with that blood work, we'll have your glucose. So therefore, you can look at a diagnosis of a pre-diabetes or possibly diabetic. And then something that's relatively new is our mental health. I just had my primary care appointment a couple of weeks ago, and my primary care had a form for me to fill out, which was a screening for depression. And personally, I really appreciated that. The fact that the mental health is being brought in to your annual routine is definitely needed. And so with our annual wellness, one of the last things, especially now in our day and age, is our review of the needed vaccines. Based on our age, where are we with our flu shots? Are we at the age to have our shingles? That's a 2-part series. And, are we at that age and at risk for pneumonia? And then, of course, with our COVID, where are we with our COVID vaccines, boosters? Again, that's something that your primary care physician is going to drive. He or she will drive that train to determine what you need when. And then a review of your preventative screenings. Things such as your skin care screening. This is something that can be in discussion with your primary care physician. the importance of doing your skin care, especially living here in Florida, along the East Coast. We know that we're at that level and we're in an area where skin care screening is important. And again, with males, prostate cancer screening. This is part of your blood work, part of your PSA, but it's going to determine, will you be sent for a Cologuard, or will you be sent for a colonoscopy, or perhaps both? It really depends on your levels, your age, and what your primary care is seeing in your screenings. So the big push here is men, get your appointment, make your appointment. If you haven't done it, call your primary care, make an appointment for your annual wellness routine checkup. All right. Thanks. And I want to stay on for the Q&A at the end. Thank you. Thanks again.
Okay, we're moving on to fitness. So there's a couple items that I love to move forward first. Number one, there's multiple ways to the same place. So everything we're talking about today, there's a lot of different ways to get to where we want to go. And number two rule is success is a multitude of right choices. So to succeed in health and wellness, in my opinion, you're going to be combining the mental aspect, in other words, the mind, which is going to give you the capabilities then to follow a nutrition regimen, which is going to give you twice the results in what you're doing with your exercise program. And I'm just going to drop a few little things that I personally use for these items. Number one, with the mind, I will just tell you, in my opinion, there's two types of people. There's what I call self-made. In other words, self-responsibility. I'm responsible for who I am, where I'm at, and where I'm going. I'm responsible for my actions, my inactions, and my reactions. That's something that I literally go to the mirror and say to myself every single day, because it's the most empowering statement I can make. Because when you take on self-responsibility, that gives you the ability to own self-discipline and self-control. And when you have self-discipline and self-control, you have the ability to do hard things, which ultimately gives you success. It gives you production, which then gives you self-confidence, self-esteem, self-purpose, self-worth, and so forth. So everything to me has to start there with the mind. And then, of course, they're going to talk about nutrition here in a second. And then we'll get into the exercise components. So when I say fundamentals are key, I believe exercise should be for two main reasons: quality of life and longevity of life. Now, again, we said there's multiple ways to the same place. So the different ways that you may exercise, there's a lot of different ways to get there. The constants, in other words, the things that's non-negotiable, is you have to be active. And activity, that can come through strength training. It can come through endurance training. It can come from working in your garden. It can come from walking over the bridge, going to the beach. The main thing is just to find something that you can do consistently, and then make sure that you do it on a daily basis. Here inside of the gym, we believe that the two main things that you want to work on is, number one, strength training. That's going to help with bone density, lean muscle tissue. It's just going to help you keep that. So we like to include some strength training into the mix, and then the endurance training. And all of that is going to consist of what we call BASE, which is balance, agility, strength, and endurance. And if we can build all those through consistent activity, that's what ultimately is going to give you the longevity and quality of life that you're looking for. Goal-oriented training. The reason I put that out there is because if you think about where you are now and where you want to be, your goal, okay? In between, there are action items. In psychology, you have influences and thoughts drive emotions, emotions drive behaviors, behaviors drive actions, and actions drive results. So if you reverse engineer that, what is going to drive your ultimate result is what is going to be your actions. Okay, so those are the two most important things. It's not what you hope for, wish for, think, want. dream, all those can play in how you, in creating actions. But at the end of the day, it's your actions that drive your result. And we just have to make sure that your training is aligned with what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to accomplish weight loss, what exactly does your training schedule or your training calendar look like that's going to achieve the maximum weight loss for you? If it's more balance oriented or agility oriented or performance, if you're an athlete and so forth, you just have to make sure that it's goal oriented training, that it aligns with what you are trying to accomplish. Questions we get a lot of times are time, type, frequency, and intensity. Again, this is the area where it becomes variable. In other words, the constant is you have to do something every day. You have to be active. The variable is the time, type, frequency, and intensity. And they sort of go together. So in other words, if time-wise, you have 30 minutes a day, well, a lot of times that's going to determine what type of activity that we give you, which is also going to define the intensity, where some people may train for an hour a day, some people for an hour and a half a day. If somebody's working out twice a week, which is the frequency of the workout, and their time then needs to be expanded because they're only working out twice a week. Not something I highly recommend. I like more short spurts, but the higher frequency. And then, of course, the intensity, that's a variable because you want to always be improving. So, the main thing for a lot of people is just taking that first step. Because once you take the first step, you're going to take a second step and then a third and a fourth. And then as you start to strengthen both cardiovascular, both strength and so forth, the intensity by default is going to continue to pick up. And there's a lot of different intensity techniques that you can use. It can be whether it be the resistance that you're using in training. It can be the amount of reps you're doing. It can be the time in between your sets. If you're doing endurance training, say you're on a treadmill, it can be at the speed that you're moving the treadmill. It can be at the elevation of the treadmill. It can also be the amount of time that you're spending on the treadmill, or whether you're doing high intensity interval training, which would be you're walking and then you're running and then you're walking and you're running and so forth. But it's very important, again, going back to goal-oriented training, that you understand what it is you want to accomplish, and then making sure that that's aligned, your action items are aligned with that goal. And we can get deeper into that at the end of that. If anybody has any questions around more specifics, I'm happy to discuss.
Thank you, John. Okay, we're going to move on to nutrition. Mary Beth.
Hi, thank you for including me in today's webinar. So with all that physical activity, you need to really take good care of your body. So one way you can do that is to make sure you're eating plenty of fiber. So try to eat 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. So if you increase your intake of fruits and vegetables, you'll be getting more fiber that way, in addition to using multigrain bread, whole wheat bread, any of those breads are fine to use. So try to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables that have different colors so that you're absorbing different vitamins and minerals that the body needs each day. And then switch over to use more healthy oils like olive, peanut, or avocado oils, so they can actually help to decrease inflammation. And also cruciferous vegetables help to decrease inflammation. So that's typically broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale. So they can all be used to help decrease inflammation. Then make sure you're getting plenty of water. So try to drink at least 64 ounces of water or more per day. And then try to make a meal last for at least 20 minutes. So you're trying to savor the food that you're eating and be more mindful of what you're eating. It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to get the signal that your stomach is full. So it helps to put the fork down between each biteful of food and maybe take some sips of water. So that way you can try to make your meal last for 20 minutes. And that way your brain will get the signal, oh, I've had a meal. I'm going to cut your appetite off. So that way it can help with weight loss.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Joe, John, and Mary Beth. At this time, we'll open it up for some questions. Right. So how much protein should I be eating to be healthy?
You really don't need that much protein. If you weighed 150 pounds, you only need 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, which would be 68 grams. Because your muscles are operating more on glucose.
So we have a question. Are there any vitamins or supplements recommended for men in their 30s?
If men are not eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, then they can probably take a basic multivitamin that would just supply 100% of the daily values. You don't really need to be taking large doses of vitamins. I guess as men get older, they need vitamin D. So you can take anywhere between 37.5 to 50 micrograms per day. And then magnesium is also another good mineral to have. You need about 400 milligrams in a day. And then it's also important to have some omega-3s. So you can basically find that in fatty fish. So if people eat salmon or tuna or halibut or haddock or sardines or mackerel, you're getting a good supply of omega-3s. So try to have fatty fish at least once or twice a week.
Thank
and I think you absorb more vitamins and minerals from food. So as Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine.
Yeah, that's a great point. I completely agree with you. I always tell people, if you can get most of your nutrients from foods, because there's other things inside of the foods that you eat, especially single ingredient foods, meaning unprocessed, that allow for maximum absorption of the vitamins and minerals. And a lot of times when you just take supplements, they're just exactly that. They're supplements, and you don't, a lot of times are able to absorb those. I completely agree on the ones, if you are going to take them. I think most of America is more mineral deficient than they are vitamin deficient. So a very, very good vitamin mineral complex would be good. Back to your point, fish oil is usually needed for the omega-3s because people, unfortunately, nowadays just don't get in enough of oily fish and so forth. But if you can get in the oily fish, that would be the best choice. And then magnesium, I personally love just to keep my cortisol levels lowered in the morning and in the evening. Sleep is so important. And if you can bring your cortisol levels down in this hectic America that we live in, a lot of us are stressed at night. We wake up in the middle of the night feeling anxiety. And if you can take in, 300-400 milligrams of magnesium at night, it really helps to control those cortisol levels and maybe allow for a better night's sleep, which ultimately gives you a much healthier state.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. And I forgot to mention, if you're not much of a fish lover, you can use ground up flaxseed, which also gives you omega-3s. So that can be put into yogurt, or I like to put it into oatmeal after I cook it. It just helps to run the fiber level up, which is good for your gut.
While we're on the topic of supplements, is there a recommended amount of sunlight that we can use for vitamin D absorption? Maybe?
I think you need at least 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Do we know how much we would get from being 20 minutes into the sun? We might be able to Google that.
I don't think so because, depending on your skin color, some people could absorb the vitamin D probably more readily compared to other types of skin. It may take a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think the other thing to go along with that, because obviously living in the state of Florida, you would think nobody in the state of Florida would have a vitamin D deficiency, yet we see it all the time. And oddly enough, I see it from people who live on the beach. They go to the beach every weekend, they do different things. But that again goes back to the importance of why aren't they absorbing even the vitamin D from the sun? And we eat and put into our bodies so much garbage, processed junk food. Again, I haven't Googled this, and I'm just giving my little 2 cents on it. I believe a lot of it is just like Mary talked about with gut health and your gut's ability to absorb all of the nutrients that you're eating. Well, you have a very difficult time doing that when you've eaten processed foods most of your life, because it gunks up your gut. It gunks up your villi that allows for maximum absorption. And I think a lot of that has to do with those bad foods also play its role in being able to absorb the sunlight, because nobody should be deficient in the state of Florida, but yet we are.
Are people using more sunscreen?
I think they are, and which is a good thing from a dermatology perspective. But I think still, even with sunscreen, you're getting adequate amount of sun, especially the healthy rays that are going to provide you the vitamin D. I honestly think it has more to do with the absorbability factor. And again, without breaking down complete science around that, that's sort of my belief anyway. Mary, I don't know what you think on that, being a nutritionist.
Yeah, a lot of people have leaky guts, so that can be a major issue with trying to absorb vitamins and minerals. So you need to balance your gut health out.
All right, perfect. Well, let's turn a little to fitness. We have a couple fitness questions. So one says, it seems that we have gotten away from a minimum of 3 times weekly to needing to exercise every single day.
Oh, hands down. We are a very, very lazy nation, especially with nowadays with most of our activity is now on our phone. I'm waiting for people to work out on a video game. To say they got in their 5 days of working out a week while they were sitting on their couch playing a video game. Back in the day, it used to be you got in your physical activity. You didn't really necessarily need to go to a gym because you were out working. Whether you were in the field, whether you were washing your own clothes and doing all these things. That currently does not exist anymore. So you've got to find ways to be active. And again, it can be part of your lifestyle. It doesn't mean you have to be a gym rat. It just means you've got to find things that you love doing consistently and then doing them. It's the same thing with food. It's the same thing with everything we're talking about. Most people know what to do. They just don't do it because it's hard. And that's a mindset. You've got to shift your mindset around, is it an opportunity or is it an obstacle? Because if you view it as an obstacle, it's going to push back against you and you're never going to get anywhere. But in every situation, you can find opportunity in it. And that gives you the energy and the ability to want to move forward with it. I would say there's 2 types of people. You have a goal here. Type A person looks at the goal, comes back to the here and now, defines what needs to be done to get there. And they're excited about doing it because they know where it's going to get them. Option number 2 is they have the same goal. They come back to the here and now. They define the same action items that need to be to get there, and they despise it because they don't want to do it. They don't feel like doing it. And that's a big problem in today's society. Most people know what they should be eating. They just, nobody drives through McDonald's and said, man, I thought that Big Mac fries and a Coke was good for me. I'm shocked. Nobody says that. You shouldn't be eating it, but we do. So same thing with fitness. Sorry to take up so much time.
That's fine. Okay. The other question, is bike riding considered a good exercise? I usually bike 6 miles a day, 5 days a week, and wanted to know if I should be doing more.
Yeah, bike riding to me is the fountain of youth. And the reason I call it that is because it's very low stress on your joints. Usually if you're biking, you're at a moderate level from a cardiovascular standpoint. And I think it's one of the greatest exercises that a person can do. Probably the most difficult thing about it is just don't get hit by a car. And because it can be dangerous out there on the streets, but I think it's absolutely one of the best exercises that a person can do.
Hey, Carla, if I could jump in.
Sure.
So going back to your wellness appointment, these are great questions and these are great comments. And this is something that should be coming up and introducing your primary care physician that you are doing. Let them know and be very transparent. Say, all right, here's what I've been doing with exercise, or here's what I have not been doing. And same with your diet. Be very honest. I think sometimes as men, we go in and we lie to our physicians. We don't tell the truth. And I think they would appreciate us just letting them know where are we with our exercise routine and where are we with our food intake.
That's a great point, Joe. We hear it all the time. Somebody will come up in the room and weigh 300 pounds and say, John, I promise you, I eat perfect. And, it's just not, I always tell them truth lies in the outcome. You don't eat perfect. You're not going to convince me you do. If you're in a caloric deficit, you will lose weight, period, end of story. Now, depending on what you're eating will depend on what type of weight you lose. But if you're in a caloric deficit, by default, you are going to lose weight. So I do. I think people really need to start getting honest with themselves and with their physician. And that way they can get correct answers coming back to them and some real help and strategies and how to move forward. Absolutely.
All righty. And then I think we have a few more questions that came through. Is there someone in the area to help to get the proper seat saddle if you want to start riding a bike more often?
Yeah, I know of a few places as far as like the bike shop, and these are avid cyclists who own these places, and they're very well versed in the right equipment, especially if you're going to be doing long distance rides and so forth like that. That one is over on Granada, I think. But I would just personally, that's what I would do. I'd try to find a subject matter expert and get their opinion on what would be best for you.
So just to finish off for today, we've had some wonderful information on going to get our annual checkups, fitness, nutrition information. We do want to let you know there are some other resources for you. If you go to fhcp.com under individuals and families and preventative services, there you'll find some information on general wellness guidelines. Our FHCP members also have our preferred fitness program. So this is where you can get free basic membership to gyms, and Gold's Gym is part of this program. And remember, you can join more than one gym. We also have our member education department, and they have wonderful programs to help people with diabetes, heart health, weight loss. There's also registered dietitians that you can connect with if you want to get more information about organizing your diet a little more, what you're eating, what you're not eating, etc. And then we also have our telephonic health coaching program. And this is a free service as well for our members. You can connect with the health coach, and they can help you with lifestyle changes that you're trying to make, give you some guidance. If you are interested in that, you can reach out to healthcoach@fhcp.com. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. And thank you to our panelists, Mary Beth, John, and Joe. We appreciate you taking time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
If you do have any questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to us at wellness@fhcp.com. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.